Phoebe Trotman loves to help people, and today she wants to help you understand the importance of a positive mindset, no matter what you choose to do. She is passionate about personal growth and empowering others to reach their full potential. Today, she is going to show us how to accomplish that. Thank you for joining me on Never Ever Give Up Hope.
Have you ever felt like giving up, quitting, throwing in the towel? Welcome to Never Ever Give Up Hope featuring Carol Graham. She's an author, health coach, and motivational speaker. Backed into a corner multiple times in her life, Carol shares with you stories on how she overcame some of the toughest obstacles a person can go through in life, but refused to give up hope. Rather than admit defeat, an opportunity was presented, and it involves each and every one of you. Carol will feature spectacular guests who will share their messages of hope, encouragement, and their inspiration to prove why life's adversities only make you stronger. And now, welcoming the host of the show, here's Carol Graham.
Phebe Trotman is a Vancouver-based entrepreneur and accomplished soccer player. She has achieved many accolades as an athlete, including being inducted into several sports halls of fame, winning championship titles, and being recognized as an exceptional athlete. Phoebe has also excelled in her career as a network marketer, earning top awards and recognition within her company. Welcome, Phoebe.
Hi, Carol. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here with you today.
And I'm excited to hear your story and the tips you're going to give the listeners. So tell us about your background, where this all started, about your career, whatever you want to share as far as who and what Phoebe is.
Absolutely. Well, let's go back a little bit. So I started playing soccer at a very, very young age and had a great start to soccer. I absolutely loved the sport. Started playing because my older brother played, and I was kind of that kid sister that had to go to his games. And I was like, I want to play too. And, so I started playing. I was, on an all-boys team. I was, little girl color on an all-boys team, the only person, and you know what? It was fine. Everyone was just very welcoming because we just all wanted to play, and fell in love with the sport and continued to do quite well, and had some bumps in the road. I'm gonna fast forward, and we can circle back if you like, but, had a great career as an athlete in terms of winning national championships at all levels, from university, professional career
Hmm.
as well as on the club side too. A lot of team awards, a lot of personal accolades, and just really grateful for my career in soccer. And one of the things I did share, and I always want people to understand that even though I have had an amazing career in soccer and a lot of those highlights, it's really because of pushing through the tough stuff, not making a
Hmm.
soccer team, coming back from injury, sitting on the bench when I want to play, and even not dressing for games. So as a professional, sometimes you might not even dress for a game, which means you're in the stands, if you will, watching your team play. And so pushing through all those bumps in terms of as an athlete is why I was able to have some of the highs as well too. Yeah, and then from soccer, I mean, I started working as at a computer company, and I didn't really love what I was doing. However, I was grateful for the paycheck, and I started a bunch of side projects, and was really in my plan was with these side projects is once the income from those side projects was high enough, then I would transition out of my career, in terms of and work for myself. And
Hmm.
God had other plans because the company went bankrupt. I was laid off, and again, at like a crossroads with what to do next. And that's what sort of started my career, if you will, in the network marketing space. Had a lot of bumps on the road in the beginning, which was it was a struggle. It really was a struggle to start until I started really, applying some of the lessons that I learned as an athlete in terms of being coachable, being disciplined, consistent, and then I was able to create success in that network marketing space, which I'm so grateful for for. But along that journey too, there were a lot of challenges, in terms of on a personal side with family, losing my dad, which was really obviously, like, it's devastating still even talking about it 12 years later. But I'm grateful for the journey and the strength, and really realizing the importance, again, which we'll talk more about, is having that positive mindset and choosing what to focus on even when we're going through challenging times.
Do you miss the athletic side?
Well, I do still play. So I do still play, not on the same level, if you will, as I did, but I do still play. So, and then I also coach soccer. I oversee a program for children on ages 3 to 7. So I'm still involved in the game of sport, and so it's different now in terms of my priority. But I do still play for the love of the game. So I get that athletic and competitive outlet on the soccer field too. So I remember so as I said, I've had bumps along my journey in terms of as a soccer player. And I remember one time, so I was about 13 years old, and a teammate and friend of mine was mentioning this provincial soccer team that we could go out and try out for. And so I didn't really know what it meant, but I thought it's an opportunity to play more soccer, so why not? Went for it. And I remember the coach, we were assigned small groups of players, and the coach asked what position we played. And at the time, I played up front, striker. However, and I told him this, and he thought in his mind I was a defender. So I kind of went for it, and we had a couple games. And so in these games, I played okay, but I definitely wouldn't say I was like a standout. And I want everyone, Kara, I want you to imagine this, and the listeners to imagine this. So at the end of these two tryout games, if you will, they call all the players in. And so there's about 50 of us standing there, and they were going to read the list of names of players who made it forward to the next round. And I'm standing there with my teammates and friends and, some other players that I've known through the community. And I'm fully expecting to hear my name as he's going through this list because I was one of the top players. Yeah, I just, stood there kind of confidently. And he reads the list of names, and I'm waiting for Phebe Trotman, and he doesn't say my name. And I'm like, okay, well, he's going to go back and realize like he made, a quick little error. That's okay. And then his next words were, all the players whose names we didn't call, you can be released because we want to discuss the next steps. And it was in
Oh,
that moment that I realized he didn't make a mistake. Like, I did not make it to this next round. And so, my friends that I all tried out with, they all made it. And so I congratulated them. Super awkward, uncomfortable,
right,
and I
right.
wonder just that feeling. And as I walked back to the car where my dad was waiting, I told him the news, and that's when it hit me. And I just started crying and crying and crying. And it was just that disappointment, feeling like discouraged, kind of even actually a little bit confused, because I was like, how did I not, make this team, if you will? And I cried for a while. And I think my parents finally had enough of me crying in our basement, because they sat down and they asked me two questions. And this is where it really was such a defining moment in my career and just in life, if you will. Because they asked me, what do I want to do next with soccer? Oh, no, sorry. First question was, am I going to let one, no, what do I want to do next with soccer? Sorry. And I said, well, I want to keep playing. And then they said, or am I going to let one coach's decision determine what happens and what I do next? And it was that tough love, but also
Wow.
in a way where it was like, well, the coach's decision is done. And the only thing that I can do next is I can choose how I respond to it. I can choose to focus on what I can control, which was my attitude, my work ethic, what I put into it. And it was in that where that was when I made a decision that I was going to be an impact player, whatever team I play on in the future going forward. I was going to be an impact player, and I was going to put in the work behind the scenes so that when it was game time, when there was a tryout, when there was anything, it wasn't going to be a question, is Phebe Trotman, should we sign her? It's going to be, yes, we want to sign her. And so I've seen it show up over and over and over in my life from that conversation with my parents. And as tough as it was to, hear it, it really was a defining moment and a huge pivot, because it changed my attitude and how I go into things in general, whether it was in sports as well as in network marketing and in everything else that I do, where I really choose to focus on what I can control when situations do happen in life.
What is an impact player and how does that relate to life?
Yeah, so as an impact player, my goal was that my presence would be known, it'd be felt. So whenever I was given an opportunity to play, whether it's, at a practice or an actual game, that I would impact the game. I would, whether it might not always be scoring goals. Obviously, that was part of, as a forward, I did score a lot of goals, but it was also the impact from a positive attitude, an impact from supporting my teammates, an impact for playing and training hard, impact in terms of the game, the outcome of the game. And so I just really shifted my focus into how do I develop into the best player that I can be by, again, putting in the work. So oftentimes we see that highlight reel, if you will, but we don't always see the work that goes in behind the scenes. And that truly is what makes the difference, whether it is in as an athlete or even in business, is what do we do behind the scenes that when it comes, and even in our careers, if we will, if we, in a job, what are we doing behind the scenes so that our performance is seen as we're excelling, we're impacting, we're making a difference in that environment, whatever environment we are in.
Give an example of doing something behind the scenes.
As an athlete? Oh, well, in the gym. I spent a lot of time in the gym. I spent a lot of time with my soccer ball, so it'd be a lot of times just myself in the garage, working on my touches. I'd be practicing with my brother and my dad. I'd go for runs. So a lot of the watching soccer, if you will, like watching skill videos. And so a lot of stuff that, again, the results would show from what we do behind the scenes. And so I was doing that. And it's the same thing that I've taken into, my career in terms of network marketing, doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes, making those follow-up calls, things that people don't always see that you have to consistently do to get the results that you want to have.
So now fast forwarding to your career, and you explained a little bit about the transition there. Just share a bit more.
Yeah, so when I was laid off from that computer company, I had a few balls in the air, if you will, side projects. I had started my own coaching company with a teammate for soccer. I started learning about real estate investing, and I had started using this tool that I did have. It was a network marketing company. I was using it more as a tool for my real estate investing, as well as for the coaching business that we had for soccer, and it did have that opportunity attached to it. And I sort of, in when I was laid off, and I always encourage people to do this, is I sort of paused and I looked forward and I went, what do I want my life to look like in the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Like, what do I really want it to look like? And when I did pause in that moment, I realized that building a network marketing business would give me that time. Like, I really wanted to be able to do something from home. I wanted to be able to like be present with my friends, my family, just have that opportunity for a flexible lifestyle while at the same time, building this business. And when I looked at it, I realized that this company would allow me to do it while also making a difference in creating teams and working in that team environment, which I loved, from being a soccer player. And so that's when I decided I was going to move forward with building the network marketing business. And at first, I kind of thought in my mind as an entrepreneur, I was like, well, I can work today, take 2 days off. Oh, I'll work tomorrow. I was super inconsistent. And then it was kind of one of those, again, gut check moments. One of the things you learn as an athlete, the accountability. I looked in the mirror and I wasn't having the results I wanted because I wasn't putting in the work that would warrant those results. And then when I started becoming coachable, following a system that was in place, being consistent with that and having the discipline to be consistent, that's when I started to have better results in terms of building the business. And I'm so grateful. I was built that 18 years with that company in terms of building a business and working with amazing teams of people all over the world. And it's been a huge blessing to be able to have that opportunity to create a flexible lifestyle, if you will.
Thank you for sharing that because that does answer a lot of questions I think for people who are listening and want to be motivated because that's what you are doing. You're definitely motivating us not to quit. And that's what we
Mhm.
want to talk about next is your book. But we're going to take a quick break for 30 seconds and when we come back, we're going to talk. I love your book title, Never Quit on a Bad Day. Oh my goodness, that's a movie right there. So we'll be right back.
Carol Graham would like to show you the path from misery to miraculous triumph in her fast-paced memoir, Battered Hope. She relates her determination to succeed as someone who experienced one horrendous nightmare after another. Gang raped and left for dead, loss of a child, husband falsely imprisoned, and cancer. Nothing could break her tenacity or faith. No matter what you face, heartache, loss, suffering, or injustice, Carol will illustrate how she became a victor the same way you can. The secret is to never, ever give up hope. Order your copy at Amazon or batteredhope.blogspot.com.
Speaking with Phoebe Trotman today, and now we're going to talk to her about her book, which I love the title, Never Quit on a Bad Day. And what I have written here regarding the book is that it is practical advice and stories of wisdom fill the pages of this book. Reading it will energize you to overcome your challenges, strengthen you with the tools needed to do it, and invoke your sense of gratitude for your personal journey. Love it. So take it away and tell us about your book.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Carol. I'm so excited with this book series, really, because as you just said, the title alone helps people. And that was really one of the goals with it is whether you ever open the book or not, just hearing that sentence, that phrase, that mantra, never quit on a bad day, it sticks with you. And that's really my goal is just to encourage people to push through those tough times, to get on the other side of it. Now, I'm not saying don't ever quit. There are times when you do need to quit, and we can chat more about that on something, if you will. However, really pushing through it because at the end of the day, we're all going to go through tough times in different seasons in our life. And I said this a little bit earlier. It's how do we move through that, right? How do we go through it? And so, with the book series, it's a collection of short stories. The first one's featuring short stories from thriving entrepreneurs. The second one that just came out a little while ago is featuring short stories from accomplished athletes. And really, they're sharing their story, their journey. What did they do? What's a tough moment that they've gone through, or I like to say grown through? And more importantly, what did they do to move through it? Because we can learn from each other. Even if our situation isn't the exact same, there are going to be parallels, the lessons that we can pull out of it, how to reframe, find gratitude, choose to move forward from it. There's parallels in that we can apply to all of our lives, if you will. And so it's been a lot of fun. I have a goal to write a book, and yet here we are. And so I always encourage people too to be open, because when you know what your mission is, then it might take a different way, a different avenue, but there's so much greatness that can happen when we start to follow our passion in terms of helping other people, if that is what it is, and how we do that can inspire other people to live their best life as well too.
Are these stories stand by themselves, or are they basically in the course of the book steps?
Yeah, great question. So it really is a book where each chapter is a short story. So I've had people who read it cover to cover. I've had people who read, like, they just open it to a chapter and read that story, and then you can read it on its own, if you will. So a lot of people have enjoyed it because you can read it however you want to. I like to say it's almost like a choose your own adventure. You can start at chapter 9 and go back to 1 and then go to 3 if you want to, or you could read it cover to cover, because the stories in itself, I put them together in a certain order. So in some ways, the lessons can help and build upon each other. That being said, they are written in a way that it is a standalone story. And one of the things that I really love, and the feedback has been so incredible, is at the end of every chapter, there's a section called Reflections on Resilience. And
Mm.
this section is really for the reader to have a pen and to answer some questions for themselves about their own journey, because I believe we're all very resilient. Sometimes we just don't remember how resilient we are. Sometimes we need to refocus on some of the things that maybe the lessons that we learned in that challenging season. And so the reflections on resilience section is for that reader to reflect on their own journey, and also to look forward to the next phase, if you will, on their journey, to take a lesson that they can apply. They can kind of put it in their toolkit, if you will, so that they can apply it when they're going through a tough time. Again, it may not be the same tough time that that contributor just talked about. However, there are parallels, and you can take that lesson to help you along your own journey too.
Can you share a story with us?
Oh, which one, Carol?
Well, we
Which one?
might have to do more than one. What do you
Oh
think?
my goodness. I'll give the general premise of a story because one of them that pops up is a couple. So Dave and Roxanne Obiso, and they share a really tough time that they were going through. And again, I won't go through all the details of it. You can, let the listeners have a read for themselves. But one of the things that's so unique with their journey is they were sharing a really tough time that they're going through. And one of the things they did was they actually recorded their bad day. Like they actually recorded that
Wow.
bad day as almost a line that they were drawing in the sand that they would never not be as prepared, I guess you will, for some of the stuff that life can throw, if you will. And so they did a recording of it. And the reason this chapter just stands out is because even when they're going through the tough time, even when they're recording this video of their low moment, they're still able to find things to be grateful for. And it's just such a powerful story of finding gratitude in the tough times. Their chapter is called Thankfulness During Tough Times, because even amidst all the challenge, they were able to find something to be grateful for. They were able to hang on to that and build from that. And then in the way the book also is set up is I have QR codes throughout the book, at the end of every chapter, if you will. And you can scan the QR code and you can see a short message of encouragement from the video, from the contributors. And for their chapter, you actually see the video that they recorded on their bad day.
That's
You
awesome.
see it, and then you have a chance to see a video message of encouragement from them, years later, them now sharing how that gratitude and holding on to that faith that the better times are ahead, and putting in the work to create better times ahead, and how that's just transformed their lives. So it's a powerful, powerful story and chapter. And just to, have that video message of encouragement as well is really powerful. So that's one of the stories. And I just think gratitude really can turn tough situations into more manageable situations to move through it. And so that chapter is just really dear to my heart.
Are most of the stories like gratitude stories, or what's another example?
Yeah, I mean, another example, again, with the lessons or what pops out in my mind. So one of them is one lesson that we talk a lot about in the reflections on resilience, and one of the chapters is perspective. So one of the stories is an entrepreneur building an incredible business, and unfortunately, that business got shut down. So one day, making a great income stream and source, just had built a dream home. All these great things are happening, and then sort of within 24 to 48 hours, all that's done. And one of the things that's really powerful in his stories, he talks about perspective, right? And kind of in some ways, how do you take that challenge and reframe it in a way that can help you move forward? Now, obviously, he was devastated when this happened. However, he didn't stay in that low moment. He used it as a way to go, reframe it. Well, I've done this before. I've learned these lessons. I can apply this to the next phase of my life, and there's something bigger and better ahead. And that's what, and really having that foresight, if you will, and perspective to be able to reframe that very challenging situation that he was going through, and not letting it paralyze him. He used it to propel him forward.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Now, is there a common thread, or is resilience the common thread throughout the stories? And second part of that question would be, do some people find it difficult thinking that way? Do you have to have a certain mindset or attitude in order to pursue resilience?
I do think it does come down to resilience, absolutely. And I do think there are components of that help you become more resilient. Again, gratitude, perspective,
Mm.
are two things that grit, like just being able to continue to
Mm-hmm.
keep going,
Mm-hmm.
grinding it, even when things are, taking longer than you want. Timing, understand that there's also timing and seasons. So I do think there are a lot of, if you will, like if resilience is like that, it's overarching principle. There's a lot of things that help with creating a spirit, if you will, of resilience. And so, but I do think that is something that we can learn over time if we're open to it, because we do
Right.
know that there are going to be tough things. Like that is something that is part of life. There's going to be seasons that are like going to be a little bit more challenging than others. And it's really important to kind of prepare for that in a way where you're filling yourself up with, again, a positive attitude. How do you reframe? How do you find gratefulness even amidst challenging times? Like finding all these little tools to put in your tool belt so that when these challenging situations happen, yes, you're still going to feel the emotion of it. Yes, you have to move through that. It's what can you do to push through that and not stay in that. That's one of the things that I think was so powerful about the perspective in that one story, is he didn't stay in that low moment. He used it to propel and to push himself forward by looking at how he can reframe, being grateful for what he had through that experience as well too, and surrounding yourself with great people. That's another piece of it, because
Hmm.
we're all going to have tough times. We need other people that we can lean on. So do you have a strong community of people that you can turn to when you're going through a tough time, that they're going to acknowledge the emotions that you're feeling? They're going to support you in the emotions that you're feeling. They're also not going to let you stay in those emotions. They're going to work their
Good,
best to
good.
help you through it, because that's important as well too.
Well, you've definitely given us a lot of food for thought. So each story is basically a standalone where there's a principle that you can apply to achieve what you're looking for.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it was important to me because I truly believe we can learn from other people. So I wanted stories from people of different backgrounds and life
Good,
experiences,
good.
and so that
Yes.
you can, again, as you just shared, there might be one story that you connect with a little bit more depending on where someone's at in their journey
Hmm.
versus another one. And so that it really is written in that way where there's stories that yeah, the stories can apply and the principles can apply to everyone. That being said, some of the stories someone might connect with a little bit more depending on where they're at.
Well, you've given us, as I mentioned, food for thought and encouragement, and that is needed more
Mm.
so now than ever. And it's exciting that you're passionate because your passion will come through. So, is there, in closing, a statement, a summary, an encouragement that you would like to leave with the audience?
Well, I love the title of this podcast because hope is so important. It is what will help us push through on those tough days. Again, along with the lines with never quit on a bad day. Part of the reason you don't quit on a bad day is because you're hopeful for what's to come for tomorrow. So I think that what you're doing with this podcast is just so needed and so important. And I appreciate it. And I want to encourage everybody listening in to hang on to hope, because hope will pull you through those tough times as well.
Perfectly said. Thank you. And thank you so much, Phoebe, for being on Never Ever Give Up Hope.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Never Ever Give Up Hope, featuring Carol Graham. Did you know that most people succeed because they are determined to? Quitting was never an option. Carol loves your comments and will respond to each one. So please subscribe and review this podcast. A rating of 5 stars would be outstanding and appreciated. Remember, if you are still here, there is always hope.